and then the TMS client directory, you can see the latest 7.13.1 TMS client's been downloaded, and you can see that we have a version of it for all versions of TLX OS. So that's where the information that's downloaded goes. So you download it once, and then you can install it to any selected device of the same category. So you obviously can't install a Raspberry Pi upgrade to a TLX Intel small form factor device, so we check for the type of device before allowing the upgrade to happen. Also, there's a little storage icon here. If I click on that, this will obtain a list of storage devices from selected clients. This is used for installation where there might be multiple disk drives in a device, and you want to be able to select which one you want to use for the actual installation. So because I have the Intel NUC 32 selected up here, this will tell me, it will send a command to the TLX OS on that NUC and say, send me what the storage is on your device. So that will appear on the screen, and you see here that it's detected there's a 7.6 megabyte or gigabyte SD card. So that Intel NUC, I'm actually booting it off an SD card because it has an SD card slot, and I didn't want to have to install a hard drive into this Intel NUC because they're expensive. I just wanted the lowest cost way of booting it, and so it's got an SD card, an 8 gig SD card actually. So there's no other choice. If there was a second hard drive or a third one, I could actually select which one I want to use for installation. I'll just click cancel now, and the next thing we'll do is go and have a look at the tools menu. So if I click on here, the first at the top of the list, quick launch, these are just keyboard shortcuts to speed things up for TMS, so there's a whole lot of them there. Configuration, we've already spoken about TMS server discovery. Then the next one in line is Pixie server configuration. This is used for mass installations of TLX OS on x86 devices such as either the Intel small form factor or repurposed PC and laptops. So once you've installed TLX OS on a Intel small form factor or a repurposed PC or laptop, you can actually configure that one device to be a Pixie server, so it can then be used to install TLX OS on anything that's Pixie booted of the same class. So if you're doing re-PCs, you're repurposing a lot of old PCs or laptops with TLX OS, you can actually configure this so that the device you first configured with TLX OS is a Pixie server. So you need to put the subnet in here, the net mask, the DHCP range start, DHCP range end, and the default is a request to Pixie boot requests only. And there's two choices under purpose here. Provisioning, that means installation. So anything that's Pixie booted will have TLX OS installed on it. Or you can actually run it as a diskless client. So you may have a classroom situation where you've got 10 or 20 Intel small form factor devices with no hard drives fitted. If you select diskless clients, when they Pixie boot, they'll load TLX OS over the network in about a minute and connect to their desktops. So this is very useful to be able to install TLX OS or run it as a diskless client. There's more information about this in the user manual, so I won't say much more about it. So I'll click on cancel. We go to tools again, configuration, Google Cloud Print configuration. If I click on that, I can configure any selected device to be a Google Cloud printer system. So the printer that's attached to a device running TLX OS can act like a Google Cloud printer. So you just fill out the user ID, password, and click on OK. That device is a Google Cloud printer. I'll click on cancel for that. We go to tools again, configuration, RDS. So this is a remote desktop service gateway configuration for Microsoft RDP. You need to put the host name, the username, password in to go through that gateway. I'll click on cancel because we're not doing that. And then we go back to configuration. Network configuration is the same as the network icon, so we won't worry about that. IoT gateway configuration. This is useful if you're interested in Internet of Things gateway. So what this does is it's defaulted to off, but if you select it, you can turn on the IoT gateway, which is in every version of TLX OS. So any TLX OS device can be an Internet of Things gateway, and it's actually running something called OctoBlue Gateway. OctoBlue is a company that Citrix acquired a couple of years ago. So if you go to the OctoBlue site, you can get an idea of how this all works. But we have it integrated, so it can be turned on or left off. It's up to you. But it is a useful thing to have. So we'll just leave it as it is. So I'll cancel that. Configuration. We'll go down to downloads. So there's two choices here. Download updates does the same as clicking on the download icon on TMS. Clear updates cache. It just removes information about everything you've already downloaded. When you go to hit the download icon to download upgrades and hotfixes and so on, anything you previously downloaded doesn't appear in the list anymore. If for some reason you want to make it appear in the list again, that's how you do it. You go to clear updates cache. The next one down is install, and this is something you will use to install a new version of TMS client. After you've downloaded it, you just click on install TMS client, and it will say here install latest TMS client version 7.13.1. You can see the Intel NUC is configured or selected with the checkbox ticked, and it's only got client version 7.13.0, so yes, I'd like to update it to 7.13.1, so I click on OK, and you'll see it says downloading upgrade successful, and it'll appear again here with 7.13.1, which is done now. So the new TMS client's running, and that fixes those discovery issues I mentioned earlier. That's how easy it is. If I had hundreds of these and they're all selected, they'd all be done simultaneously when I clicked on OK. So install Hotfix. So these are the hotfixes that are available to install on a NUC. There's a Citrix receiver 13.6 upgrade, and a hotfix. There was a problem with an earlier version of Citrix receiver, so we'll select number 2 and click on OK. Are you sure you want to install the hotfix? Yeah. Click on yes, and it says hotfix already installed, which we know. Well, I knew that because hotfix is here. It says number 1. It's actually got one installed, and I knew that that was the only one that had been installed, so it won't install it again. So we go to tools. Where did we get to? Install file on device. That's the same as clicking on the upload icon. Log files. This is useful, particularly for the IoT gateway, because you need to obtain some information, UUID and some other information about the gateway. But this will pull in all the device logs that are from whatever device you have selected. So that's a very useful thing. Storage is the same as clicking the storage icon up here. Power save mode is defaulted on. Firewall state defaulted on. The keyboards and the mouse, etc. We've looked at that. Set TLX config password. This is an interesting one. that you'll find useful as well. On the actual TLX OS there's a configuration menu that we call TLX config. You want to be able to lock out the end users from using that and changing settings. So you can actually set a password here, and any selected devices will receive that password, and if the end user tries to use that configuration menu, they can't unless they know the password. So that's a useful way of locking down the Thin client at the end user's side. So I'll just close that because we're not setting it. Check time synchronization. Any devices you have selected, if you click on this, it'll do a quick check to see if the time's actually correct. Having the time correct is very important, especially on the Raspberry Pi, as it doesn't have a real-time clock or a battery back clock. It has to get the time when it boots up, and if it gets the wrong time because you've configured the time server incorrectly, you will not be able to do an encrypted connection to Citrix. So that's one quick way of checking the time. Product registration, this is important. You get a 60-day free trial with TLX OS, but you will need to, after the 60-day free trial runs out, you need to buy a license and then register the product. So what happens here is, if you like TLX OS and you want to keep using it after the 60 days, you need to go to the ThinLinX online store and register an email address and a password and buy a number of licenses. So let's say you had 10 Raspberry Pis, you'd go to the online store and buy 10 Raspberry Pi licenses. When you do that, the information that you're provided when you registered on the online store goes into our license server database, and those 10 licenses are stored in that database associated with your details. So what you do to actually license the products is select them by ticking the check boxes. And then you put the email address in that you use for registration and the password, and you notice here the default is paid version, so you need to make sure that that is actually selected. Click on OK, and then TMS will gather some information from the selected devices, send it to the license server. The license server will send back an encrypted license to each device, and a message comes up here under status saying product registered. Now in the case that you've got a proxy server on your network, you'll need to make sure you've configured the proxy server details under edit settings up here. Also, you notice we've got a free trial selection. In some cases, people that are installing TLX OS, the free trial doesn't register because they've got a proxy server blocking the connection, so they need to be able to register the trial if they want to get the 60-day free trial. So they can select free trial here. They'll have to, if this happens to them, they'll have to go to the ThinLinX license, the web ThinLinX store, and just register an email address and a password. They don't have to buy a license at this stage. They just have to be registered